Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 155th episode. I am Daksh, the founder of Blub World. Before we start this 155th episode, just to let you know, in the last 154 episodes, more than 2,500 school leaders have participated on this platform, shared their ideas, opinions, innovations, and what all new are they doing in the education space. We are trying to build the world's biggest repository of ideas in the school education space. So try sharing what you think could be used, could be replicated in schools across the world. So in the next 60 minutes that we have with you, we'll try to take your ideas, your innovations on how is education changing, and on a topic that's quite interesting for today. Before we go on to the topic, just to set some ground rules, the Blub World Web Talks is a bilingual platform, so you can use English or Hindi, any of these two languages. But remember to use these two, otherwise we won't get it. Most importantly, this is a timed platform. It's kind of a speaking sprint. So once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to finish the activity on time and to keep it very crisp and more enjoyable for everyone else. Thank you so much once again for joining in. And today we have a very interesting topic to talk about. This is something that's right now changing the education space dramatically, because this is the expectation that people have, that parents have from the education system all around the world. There's a very famous saying in Chile that love is the only emotion that enhances your intelligence. So are we ready to let our students fall in love with what they learn? And are we ready to liberalize education, or have we already done it? Trying to understand your perspective on liberal education. A very warm welcome to all the speakers for today. We have an amazing lineup of people who will be sharing their ideas on liberal education. Let me invite the first speaker for today to initiate the talk, to set the ball rolling and to set the context. A very warm welcome, Dr. Siddharth S., Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Sai University, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Siddharth, over to you for the next 3 to 4 minutes. A very warm welcome. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Gaur, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Liberal education is a relatively new concept in India, and though we have quite a few universities that offer such a program, next 3 to 4 minutes, I want to quickly outline some of the key aspects of liberal education, what it is. We are familiar with the typical undergraduate education here in India, which is usually focused on a particular discipline, a science such as physics, social science, such as economics, or one of the arts and humanities subjects, philosophy, history, literature. So we can understand liberal education in opposition to this. Liberal education focuses on two things. First, it seeks to provide a wide-ranging exposure to the various forms of human thought, knowledge, and inquiry at the university. This is what we are at the university for. This is done by introducing students to various disciplines and streams, the various sciences, the various arts and humanities subjects, and the various social sciences, and gives them a brief idea of what differentiates them, these different disciplines, while also talking about how they are connected. In this sense, liberal education is multidisciplinary in its very conception. And second, after exposing students to this wide range of disciplines, it allows students to go in depth into one area or discipline, while at the same time exploring how the issues in this particular discipline connect with other disciplines. And importantly, students have the freedom to choose and design what they would like to specialize in. Often they offer a major, either in physics or in economics or sociology or philosophy or literature, along with a minor as well. So you can take another discipline which could be, at least at first sight, not closely related. For example, you could study computer science, and along with it, you could study philosophy or psychology to understand how the mind works and use it in computer sciences. So to summarize quickly, liberal education allows for a broad overview along with a specialization, with the freedom for the students to choose and make an informed choice. And one second important aspect of liberal education is its focus on essential skills which are essential across domains. Broadly, there are two such skills are communication skills and critical thinking skills. Communication skills deal with how you write and speak well, how you structure your communication, depending on the audience and the purpose. Critical thinking helps you develop systematic ways of thinking and reasoning. How do you build arguments? How do you evaluate evidence? How are you aware of your own biases in your thinking, etc.? The third thing, liberal education promotes these skills, communication, critical and original thinking, not just through specific courses, but throughout the program, how every course is taught, how a student traverses through the entire program. And often this is reflected in the pedagogy of a liberal education. Classes are, while there are lectures, which is the common mode of classroom interaction, students also involved in active learning practices. There are discussions in every sessions, and there are activities which in which students have to get hands-on to learn whatever is being taught. And evaluations, unlike the typical end of semester examination, require students to write short papers and make original arguments. There is a continuous evaluation, and hence these essential skills are honed throughout the program. While the orientation of a liberal education is to explore with the freedom to choose and equip them with basic skills, one might wonder if this leads to disadvantage in terms of employability as opposed to a very focused program. This is not true. In fact, on the other hand, with its focus on fundamental skills, it equips students with skills that are required for a wide variety of careers, a kind of future that we are looking at. Second, students can in fact specialize in disciplines, and with their exposure to other disciplines as well, they would in fact, I would think, have an edge in comparison to those who are more narrowly focused. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Siddharthas. Let me try to summarize what you said. You started with trying to define liberal education and what all aspects get involved into it, a wide range of subject variety, multidisciplinary, and most importantly, the approach of narrow casting, going from a wide variety of subjects to a major that you think would add a lot to your skill or your specialization, designing their own major, focus on essential skills like communication and critical thinking. And most importantly, these two skills would not be taught as courses, but they'll be a part of the complete pedagogy of it. And finally, you talked about something that's very important part of the discussion, because we are talking in the aspect or perspective of the Indian ecosystem, where the expectation from the university is basically employment, that this could be thought of as a disadvantage in employability of these students. But is it actually so? Is something that's disputable, but what you say is not at all disputable, because that's where he has built some basic skills that will be a part of his career in whichever stream he goes, whichever stream he develops over the course of time. So thank you so much, Dr. Siddharth, for setting the right tone. Let me invite the next speaker for today. Now onwards, we'll be listening to school leaders on their perspective of liberal education. The next invitee to speak on the platform is Mr. Ramesh Mudgal, Principal of Presidency School from Bangalore, North Karnataka. Ramesh ji, a very warm welcome to you. Please unmute yourself. The next 3 minutes are yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Daksh. And I think Mr. Siddharth has set the tone for today's discussion pretty well. In fact, see, it's a very lofty idea. It's very new to India. It's something that has been existing in the Western world for quite some time. But even in the Western world, whether we take USR or we take the European education scenario, even there, to a large extent, as far as the school education is concerned, they still go by the same thing, that okay, a students of a particular level, it's still subject focused, although there are a lot of other skills also embedded into the curriculum itself. So to me, liberal education, the way for liberal education in India has already started with the national education policy, NEP 2020. The idea of NEP, the basic tenets of NEP, the new initiatives that are being brought in, where even the core scholastic subjects are being given equal importance, where a student can actually do a combination of, let's say, take a science subject, physics and chemistry, and at the same, alongside physics and chemistry, you can also go for an art, fine arts, or music, or dramatics, anything of that sort. I think that has set the tone for liberal education. But as far as my thought process goes, it is still pretty new. India, whether we like it or not, in reality, is still a heavily job-oriented. It's a society where the people's livelihoods, securing a career, a safe career, a rewarding career, it's a paramount in the minds of every parent. Okay. So the schools are also aligned to a great extent on that. However, individually, the schools have already started trying to embed the skills of collaboration, skills of critical thinking and creativity among the students in their own way. but to offer them as on a very, very full-fledged level, wherein they get the equal weightage as that of a scholastic subject, I feel that it is still at least about 4 to 5 years away, at least at the school level, for it to become widespread. I'm not saying that this is not happening at the school level. They're doing, in fact, most of the schools are all doing it at a, let's say about the beginning has happened, and then for it to become widely accepted model and widely practiced kind of a thing, acceptance among the parents, acceptance among the employers, acceptance among the educators, for it to become something that is a common factor, something that is okay, people are absolutely comfortable with, it is still going to take time. There is still this mindset of chasing after IITs and the NITs and things like that. We are living in that kind of a culture. And there is another segment of people who are chasing after dreams. The US dreams are the European dreams are the Australian dreams. So it is still there. But I guess a right beginning is happening. And I'm sure all schools, including our school, we would all be very much a part of this initiative. As the NEP gets implemented, I think many things naturally across the entire country are going to be implemented. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. Let me try to summarize what you said. When we talk of the Indian perspective, of the Indian aspect of it, it's still a lofty and a new idea. But as of now, it has started gaining some traction. Now people are attracted towards it. We have started talking about it. Liberal education has now started getting prominence. But when we talk of India, we are a heavily job-oriented society, and we look at employment as one of the critical factors in judging what kind of higher education should we be opting for. And as per your estimates, we will at least be taking the next 4 to 5 years just to get it widespread and more acceptable and comfortable with all the enrolled students and their parents. And finally, a major portion of India is still under the impression and under the aspiration of living the foreign dream, whether it's the American dream or it's any other country that promises to be of a much more prosperous life prospects. So thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Mrs. Suchitra Venkatesan, the principal of Amethyst International School, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Suchitra ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute your audio and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. It was really nice, and a warm welcome to everyone over here. Thanks, and it was nice hearing from Mr. Siddharth and Mr. Ramesh Mudgal about liberal education. And just adding a few more points, I think they all have said it all. So just, in my perception, okay, what I would like to share is the first thing what liberal education would like to, take it forward, what I prefer to take it in the education industry is like working on how to think, not what to think. Like when we believe this saying, when we want our children to be ready how to think and not what to think, and that's liberal education. That's the freedom they have. And coming up with basically what we focus on is liberal education. One is choosing subjects, yes, what NLP has come up with, and it can be the choices, their interest, everything coming over there. But my understanding in this would be the skill development. Like, if the skill development is practiced well along with any subject content or anything, then that's it, because we are preparing the children or the students to face the world where the subject knowledge alone is not enough. They need to have the skill added along with it to succeed in this industry. Maybe any job, wherever they go, the concept understanding can be explained only if they have the communication skill with them, or if they have the presentation skill with them, if they know how to carry themselves, how precise they should talk about it. Everything matters. When that is not there and they have 100% of marks with them, that's not going to help them. That's what I believe. So working on what we have to do for our children, giving them the best skills needed along with the academic subjects and concepts that they are going to master is something where I'm also looking forward. And I'm very happy that to share that I'm practicing that in our school here also. We focus more on to balancing the skills along with the subjects. And I never look at skill development or the arts or whatever it may be. as a separate subject. It's all integrated. It should be integrated across all the domains, and every subject needs to have that. Even English, if we say English language, it is only communication or something. No, even when you want to present something else in a social studies or in a psychology subject or mathematical subject, again, you need this communication to be added there. So it's all integrated. And I believe STEM or STEAM, whatever we are all working out, I think in India, it has vastly been accepted by many schools, and many educators have started focusing more on those, developments, skill development. And that has really given the true version of liberal education. That's what I feel. And how we have actually traveled, rote learning. We all know how the education industry has traveled from before. It started off with rote learning, then rote writing. Children used to just see what and just write, no place for them to think. Then it moved on to theory and practicals. They learned the theory and they had some amount of practicals or hands-on, that is activity-oriented way of learning. And finally, now liberal education, which is coming, we are all looking forward and putting it slowly into practice. Like Mr. Ramesh Mudgal said, it is like yet to go widespread. Widely, if it has to go, it will take another 5 to 6 years, because the whole total mentality of the educators and the parents and the students need to change. That change is needed for effectively putting it out or rolling it out into action. So liberal education, again, which is something which allows us to integrate the skill development into the classroom, into the subjects, whatever they choose, everywhere. So integration of that skill development freely, and it has number of factors which I'm not going to go now because 3 minutes is very less. So, and it basically gives us all the skills.
Thank you so much, Suchitra ma'am. The 3 minutes were over, but we'll try to come back to you. Let me try to summarize what you said. You started with the simple quote that let's teach our students how to think and not what to think. That's where the essence of liberal education lies. Skill development, presentation skills, and most importantly, focusing on balancing of skills with the core curriculum. And most importantly, finding a way to integrate it seamlessly so that it does not become a travel to and fro between your skill and your curriculum. It's rather synced into one whole pedagogy of things. Finally, trying to jot down the journey of education and how education evoluted from rote learning to theory and practical, and finally right now on liberal education. And this whole process of making liberal education more widespread in the next coming years would need a lot of major stakeholder mentality shift. I think that would need us to educate the stakeholders in a very different way. And what we can perceive at the moment is in some of the other way that has silently already started. So thank you so much, Suchitra ma'am, for adding this perspective. Let me invite the next speaker for today.
Very happy evening to everybody here. And actually, as Mr. Ganesh has said already, so I thought I would just add on to that. Liberal education should start from 9th standard, accordingly, to me, actually, because till 8th, they are small children. And from 9th onwards, they could little bit think of. And CBSE has rightly started with actually taking the first foundation for that, that is basic maths and standard maths. One who doesn't opt for mathematical group later can go for basic maths. It's a wonderful actually step forward, but still to go ahead. And I feel that they should also go with science. Actually, there can be 2 streams in science. One is physical science, another one is biological science. So in 11th standard, they could decide which group to go with. Maybe biology, those who want pure biology can go for biological science. And those who want to go with engineering group or mathematical group, they can opt for physical science. Because when you see 10th standard results, who fail or what subjects they fail most is maths and science. All principals would agree. Maths and science, you could see many failures. So maths, we have come to one conclusion. In the same way, for some science also, if CBSE takes a step, it would be wonderful. After that, when they go to senior secondary, again, they should be given freedom to choose any subject. Actually, it is not actually particularly restricting to this area or that area. They should have, because after experience in 9th and 10th, they would feel that this is tough for me. I don't have this attitude. So they may opt for different one, which we should welcome. So in 11th and 12th, they should be given freedom to choose. And next in college, first year also, they should have variety of subjects. and including humanities, that is value education and literature. And after first year, then they should be able to focus into their career choice, actually which career they want to choose, accordingly they can go. So if this change is also brought, I think the future, the career of the children will be very bright. And right now there are many who have just landed up somewhere and they continue without any interest in the job. So that should not happen. They should do with enthusiasm and interest. And next is the schools also, it should be made mandatory. The school should invite parents who are in various fields to share their experience. This is what is expected in my area or my field. And similarly, professionals from various fields should also come and address the students, so that students will actually decide, yes, I have this ability, I have liking towards this field. So the children will be able to analyze and find out pros and cons, and then they should go ahead with that. So it should start from 9th standard. Again, in 11th standard, they should be given one chance to choose. And in college first year, also they should be given very many disciplines. And from there, they should be able to choose only from second year onwards. They should be focusing on one particular area. And here, part-time jobs should be made mandatory in college first year at least. So they should go, suppose I decide to take up maybe the IT field, then part-time I should go. Another student decides teaching, another student decides, no, I should go for electronics medium and engineering. Then they should be allowed to go as part-time. And afterwards, with that experience, the children should decide whether it is suitable for me or not. Can I switch over? So before studying or taking the right choice in the second year of college, they will have an experience, hands-on experience in the field. So this also should be done by the government, and there should be one.
Thank you so much, Esaqibul ma'am. The first 3 minutes were over. Trying to put together what you said, with the option of basic math and standard math coming into place, you also suggested that there should be a similar choice given in the field of science with physical and biological sciences that can be decided in class 11th, because the maximum failing students or failures that we see are in these two subjects in these senior classes. The freedom of choosing subjects must continue even beyond the school. This would make the career selection and, most importantly, creating job satisfaction for every individual who comes out of the education system. Finally, apprenticeship or part-time jobs must be mandated within the first 2-3 years of your college education as well. So making it more flexible, more approachable for students, and rather giving them an opportunity to introspect a little bit and understand their attitude towards different subjects. Thank you so much, Esaqibul ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Mrs. Sandhya Gatti, Head of Pedagogy and Professional Development, Chaman Bharti, Founder Director, Teacher Inc., Bangalore, Karnataka. Sandhya ma'am, over to you.
Thank you very much, Daksh. Okay. I think what we need to understand here is a conceptual difference between liberal education and liberal arts education. Liberal education is about ideology, human freedom, human potential, the meeting of, the best of what a human being can be. Whereas liberal arts education is more concerned with disciplines and everything that people were talking about right now. My question, I think I have more questions than, statements to make, because one of the quintessential question would be, in current times, in our system, is human potential and so-called academics, are they at loggerheads or are they aligned? Where are our priorities? And how have we discussed the purpose of education? Who has discussed it? So while we can, I think if we want a movement towards liberal education, towards the meeting of the best of human potential, then we need to start talking and start having dialogue about what it means and how will it look in everyday practice in the classroom. Already, I can see that our curriculum, which is so literally with blinkers. We only look at subjects. We don't look at curriculum. We look at teaching. We don't look at the entire gamut of pedagogy. So how do you bring, if you want to move towards liberal education, we have to consider egalitarian principles. How do we treat? We have hierarchy of disciplines. Everybody's talking about math and science, like you cannot live without it. So how do we bring in art, and how do we give the same importance? In the early years and in the primary, parents are still okay. They're open to their children learning different things, doing a lot of singing, dancing, art, along with a little bit of math or science. They're okay. But as you go further in high school, you'll find that that whole liberalism that we have, even at an ignorant level, disappears. And it is only about, what do you want to do, to probably, like Mr. Ramesh said, to get a job. I think getting a job is not a problem. That can, everybody has to make a living. But what we need to probably re-examine is our understanding of success and understanding of what we want to do in life, what job we want to take. So if we start thinking about it from that perspective, if we start dialogue about redefining what success is, redefining what human potential looks like, redefining what job, for the want of the word, because job was used, I would say, what is it that we love doing? Can we identify it? You cannot have children study history, geography with no choices up till grade 12, and then expect them to make choices about what they want to do. This is something we don't understand. You, like every other skill, decision making or making a choice is an important skill and needs to be taught. In our schools, our learners, no matter what age they are or what stage they are, do not have these choices. So you can't open up something at a point where children are already, they've stopped thinking. So how will they ever make multidisciplinary choices? Unless that option is given at all stages in school, we cannot hope to have liberal education, I think, for a long time to come. So what I would say is, if we need to even move in that direction, which we should absolutely, without that, Michael Oakeshott and all the great people, they talk about why all education, David Orr, all education is environmental education. All education is education for the self, for the betterment of self. Now, where is the self?
Thank you so much, Sandhya. Ma'am, the 3 minutes are over, but we'll again come back to you. To summarize what you said, liberal education and liberal arts education has to be differentiated. We must be very clear in our thought process that these two things are different. And in current times, is human potential and curriculum at loggerheads? Are we talking of policy? Are we talking of potential? We need to understand that, and at the same time, try to understand what do we finally want to achieve out of education. Because the purpose of education is somewhere lost. If we only think of employability, then we're not thinking of it as something that we typically talk about, learning for life. This is something that where the major disconnect happens. How can we bring subjects out of their silos? How can we bring them together? How can we bring them equitable importance? And when we look at liberalism from the aspect of a parent, how good and how well educated we are, how liberal we may be, but when you get into the senior classes, that liberalism typically disappears. We have to now think on the lines where we re-examine success, redefine human potential, and finally try to understand that how would we make children with passive thinking skills make active choices? Because that's what we're doing. We're opening the world to them, making it flexible, but we're not giving them the skill of choices, making choices, or decision making. So thank you so much, Sandhya ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Ms. Mridula Praveen, Director of Craft World School from Kochi, Kerala. Mridula ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute your audio. In a very
Hi, yeah, good evening, Daksh. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and good evening, everyone. I'm sorry that I could talk only in the last moment of the session because I have been a little busy today. Sorry to disappoint you about that. Yeah, so to me, liberal education, actually, I am actually leading a school that has only grades until 7th grade. So more of the practical implementation of the whole system is actually only coming in the near future. But still, we are following the Cambridge International Curriculum, which actually focuses more on liberal education, which have a lot of electives, and children are actually not pressurized to take all the 14 subjects, which actually CBSE implements, and children are given choices to make even from the 8th grade onwards. So out of 14 subjects, they can choose only 9 of them. So from there, it starts the whole point of liberal education. Even in the primary section also, they have this 12 choice of electives, where we can take only 5 of them to learn according to the children's interest. So that is how the whole Cambridge curriculum it is itself. So while I talk to parents, I come to understand that how we were all doing when we were studying. What we studied was not actually implemented later on in our lives for our jobs or maybe for our holistic life learning. So we actually follow a little aligned towards this liberal education. So as such, we have actually formulated a lot of policies based upon this. And to us, or to me, actually, this whole liberal education concept more resembles to the old Indian Gurukuls, like how we do in Takshashilas and Nalanda universities, where the whole holistic learning comes under the acknowledged teachers and mentors. So as to me, our kids are only until that tweens age. So from there itself, in that age group itself, we have given them, along with the academics, we have given them a lot of co-curricular activities as well, which actually includes the life skills, crisis management sessions. Even every day, we treat this extracurriculars or the holistic learning as important as the academic subjects itself. So every day they have hours for like how to make fire, how to farm something, agriculture, farming, and fire, and whatever we have to, how much aligned we should be with the nature, stranger abduction, sex abuse, everything, child abuse, all this comes under the same importance like the academic subjects. So the teacher is also kind of a mother teacher concept itself. So this liberal education can be related to something like guru shikshak relationships in the old age system. So mostly it's experiential learning. We have only minimum number of students in each class, and children will be not taught in just the lecture way or maybe the bookish method. They always used to sit under the tree and then have their own interest of way of learning. The teacher will understand first how the child learns, then introduces that topic in that manner. So that is how the children is so liberal to understand the way they learn. So they are more confident in how they can implement it. Even the tests are also not standardized like the CBSE. So here, actually, I don't want to, give much importance for the Cambridge International Syllabus. I'm just telling you how that syllabus actually helps in the way of this liberal education. So that is how it is. Everyone, they just can say, even the test also, they can tell in their own way. So that much liberalism or the freedom they have is really unbelievable. And including my child is also a student in the same school. So as a parent also, I can feel how this liberal education actually is taking effect on children's minds through a broad knowledge of all these multiple disciplines, an in-depth study of a particular chosen discipline, and this contextual learning, freedom of the mind, and lifelong learning, all these things. So mentally, physically, aided by technology, like the big data, analytics, and even the machine learning and artificial intelligence. So they are all going to be like preparing these students for a real sustainable future that is really not so distant.
Thank you so much, Mridula ma'am. Let me summarize what you said. You talked majorly about the Cambridge curriculum, the way it gives choices from 8th grade onwards. And when you talk to parents, you also realize that they were not able to apply their own academic knowledge in their real lives. Liberal education parallels with the Gurukul approach. Most importantly, when we talk of hands-on learning, when we talk of the mother-teacher positioning, which typically looks like the Guru Shishya Parampara, and the teaching aided by technology. This enables personalized learning, and I think that's what we have to focus on when we talk of liberal education, because it's very important to understand and identify the psyche of the child who's at the receiving end of the complete content. Thank you so much, Mridula ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Ms. Mridula A, Principal of Bhavan Bangalore Press School from Bangalore, Karnataka. Manjula ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute your audio, and a very warm welcome.
A very good evening, and I think after listening to all the speakers, I feel there is not much left for me, but still, because the views which others have given, because I thought that whatever Ramesh Mutkal sir said, and then afterwards what Sandhya Gatti ma'am said, everything has put me into a thought that what exactly is liberal education. Now, as far as I feel, liberal education is the need for the day. The first thing is that this has been practiced in West, and now we are bringing it to our country. We need to put a thought that who are the people who are going to make a change. The first thing is what we feel is, I feel is that the parents, that we have to really make a change or bring about a change is the view or the perspective of the parents, that from rote learning to learn hands-on doing or competency-based education, it is the parents who have to agree or we have to accept this change, and the educators and the students, that what is my purpose of my education? Is it loving what I'm doing, or the purpose of my education? Because I had heard one of the stories where the child had written down that what is your purpose of your education, or what is that? He had written that happiness is my purpose, that is why I'm studying. So what is it that we are going to make the child do is very, very important. The independence to choose their own subjects is one of the most important thing. In West, they have that, they sometimes they study the art subject, and after that they go to medical. So they know what they have know about these things, whatever their interests are, they go. Maybe we may not go to that much, but at least we can study whatever we want, and we can do what we would like to do. So that change over from the rote learning to skill development, and with the setting in of our NEP, this is very, very important. And we have seen that skill education has been included, and the 21st century skills, whatever is there, has to be included. And all those things are going to happen in the school, and the as the leaders or the principals who are there, or the leaders of the school, are the one who are going to bring about this change. A change in the parents' outlook, a change in the students' outlook is very, very important. And then the next one is from the narrow casting of whatever we are thinking, that for a job we need to study only for a job. But only thing is, we have to make the child understand that whatever he studies, if he does with a passion, he will surely succeed in his life. That is what is very, very important. So whatever they are going to learn, it should be with passion. Then only they can succeed. So from rote learning to competency based, or from rote learning to hands-on doing is very, very important. And one more thing we have to build is the dignity of labor in our people. And one more, and the thing is, most of our people, they are still struggling for basic education. At that time, really, we'll have to make a lot of change to really bring children to the school and then liberalize the thing. And I also agree with ma'am about the Gurukula system. As the whole cycle goes on, we are changing again and going back to the same cycle of the Gurukula system again. And only thing is, we need to understand that what was there in the Gurukula system, and how am I going to implement that holistic development, the 360-degree development for the child. That is what is very important in this today's, whatever we are doing, whatever education we are going to take. We have to see that there is a holistic development for the child. Implementation of NEP, the 21st century skills, the skill education, and the from rote learning, moving from rote learning to competency based should be the mantra for today. That is how we are going to bring about, and the independence to choose whatever subject they want. Possibly that we can bring about a change. So I thank you for giving me, and with the quote of Gandhi, I would say that be the change what you have to be, because many times educators themselves do not want this change. Okay, so we as educators first have to change this outlook of what is the purpose of education.
Thank you so much, Manjula ma'am. Let me summarize what you said. What exactly is liberal education? How do we look at it? And what do we finally want to achieve out of it? I think understanding the objective of education, some or the other way, remains the center of liberal education whenever we want to talk about it. Parents have to agree to the approach, and most importantly, their own understanding of their expectation from education. Education for happiness, as a student might have defined at some point of time. And how do we define happiness? How does the parent define happiness? Because that's where he sets his expectation from the education ecosystem. Independence in choosing subjects, studying what we want, and a new concept that right now is being talked about even in the academic board of credit meetings, that exams on demand. That if I am ready with the subject, you take my examination. Not when you want to take my examination, I should be ready for that. So getting into an approach that's much more driven by the learner than the teacher. And finally, We have to be the change that we really want to see. And what we see in the education ecosystem in India specifically, when we go to execution, it becomes a big white elephant that does not move so easily. Thank you so much, Manjula ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Dr. Malini Datta, Principal of Brooklyn National Public School from Bangalore, Karnataka. Malini ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. A very warm welcome. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. And wishing all of you that liberal education needs to come back to our school system. One must remember that after 34 years, we are getting a change into our education. After 34 years of this change that is coming to our schools, we are welcoming. But the question is here, India is a period of transition between the conservative educational system, and now we are exposing us towards a liberal education. So a group of parents rightfully asked me that, ma'am, what do you know? What do you say? Or what is actually the liberal education? And how would you like to define that? So when we are talking about liberal education, we should know, we should understand and make the people understand that, so that, this transition periods end smoothly. So I tell them that it is an approach to learning that empowers the individuals, everybody, and prepares them to deal with the complexity of this 21st centuries and modern world, the diversity that we are existing with, and the change. And it provides the students with a broad knowledge of the wider world, whether it is science or culture or society, and as well as in-depth study in a specific area of interest. The student should not study what is the interest of the parent, but he should study what is the area of his or her interest. So there comes the liberal education that helps students develop a sense of social responsibility, as well as a strong and transferable intellectual and practical skills, such as communication, analytical, and problem-solving skills, and demonstrating, and then only the student can demonstrate ability to apply that knowledge, whatever he has learned. If we are forcing him to take some other subjects apart from his own interest, then that demonstration will not be there. So demonstrating the ability to apply knowledge and the skills in the real world settings is what we can broadly describe what is liberal education, as the word liberal itself comes from the Latin word which called free. So freedom from any boundaries, freedom from a syllabus, freedom from a curriculum, freedom from a board restriction. So that is what is liberal education. And we should know and understand and make the people understand, because again, I will put emphasis that we are in a transition period. When we talk about China and India, China being the biggest populated country, India, the biggest democracy, we are having 10 times more the schools of what China is having. But still, we can all see what is happening. So without 3 minutes is very less to speak on. India has, on the right time, has brought the NEP, and CBSE has already started, and we all have adopted in our school also, making educated, we are educating the parents that what liberal education is, what skill subjects are, why the students should get involved and engaged into these periods, because many parents, they come with the question that why the periods are wasted. So we need to make them understand that what we are aiming towards. So a liberal education, it helps also to bring to know what we know, to be receptive to what we don't know, and to make a connection between the two. So when the bridge is built, automatically we understand where we are lacking behind, and we can take that forward and ahead. And it also helps us to pose interesting questions, exercise our curiosity. Now with a limited curriculum, you cannot pose that curiosity, that question, reserve judgment, gather opinion, answer questions intelligently, and communicate articulately. So when all these things we are talking about a system, where not only the subjects which are required, but we need stepping out of that syllabus. Then only the students will understand.
Thank you so much, Malini ma'am. Let me try to summarize. We are right now looking at a change that people normally think is coming after a 34-year-long wait. I think usme bhi we have had a lot of transitions in the form of CCE and different changes coming. But I think we can say that it's kind of a positive change in the last 34 years, because the earlier changes were not on a very positive connotation. When we talk about India, we are in that transitionary phase. So we'll be facing a lot of opposition when we talk to stakeholders, whether it's parents, whether it's teachers, because they right now are not able to visualize the kind of world that the NEP or that international IB boards or the Cambridge boards visualize. We have to teach students or empower the learner to handle the complexity of the real world, and that's where liberal education becomes critical or important, so that he understands that life has more aspects to it than the subjects that you study in your school. So those subjects have to be converted into different perspectives and aspects that you'll be handling in your real life, the science, culture, and society, from parents' interest to the students' interest. And liberal, the core word in itself means freedom. So how should we be enabling to remove restrictions as much as possible? And most importantly, connecting them or typically taking them through the journey of knowing to the unknown, because that's what education must be doing, that when you are in that unknown area, you must be able to tackle yourself, and you must be able to tackle yourself in a positive and constructive way. So thank you so much, Malini ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today, Dr. Margaret Augustine, Director of Pratibha School from Coorg, Karnataka. Margaret ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute your audio, and a very warm welcome.
Good evening, everybody. It's so nice to hear you. I heard a lot, and I think I have to just give a summary about it. Well, if I tell you about liberal, always suggest that not restricted, not limited. It suggests a kind of openness to receive all things good and great. I think NEP will change this liberal idea to our world, our Indian education. Well, liberal donates freedom. Well, liberal education is one in which us with knowledge, art, science, and human progress without limitation. It should stand for a system of education and open to the child's mind. All knowledge required for him, for his intellectual, emotional, social, aesthetic, and spiritual fulfillment. At its deepest and broadest level, it stands for a rich education that helps him to grow. He always, with all the knowledge and skill required for his successful living. In pre-purpose of fundamental of his wide knowledge of language, science, and history, and in this modern world, a deep knowledge of technology. In short, the liberal education should help him to be successful in the world and also contribute in the development of the society he lives in, and ability to contribute his share to the growth of the world and live in a full of happiness and true education. Well, once again, I can just tell you, it is not restricted, not limited. It suggests to the openness of receiving all things good and great. Well, with two words, we can say freedom and responsibility. Give the child the freedom and teach him how to be responsible for his freedom and grow. And I think we'll have a happy children in this society. Well, one thing I do believe that transforming classroom into a thinking room. We always with restricted and and borders, we have already planned, this is it, and we have to teach him and complete it. Give him freedom to think and to make him think in that four corner, that is the classroom, make him think and allow him to grow. I think complete freedom flows there, and we can see this children ability to the growth of this society. That when we give complete freedom, I think this education will be a great blessing to this world. I think modern children must be enjoying with all the technology they have. They must, I do not know how they have taken up this world of education is online classes. But still, we know how much it helps them or how much it goes. Let's give freedom into this education field and then see how it works. Well, once again, I suggest with not restricted, not limited. It suggests to a kind of openness to receive all things good and great. Let's NEP bring this transforming this thing into this India and grow up happily our generation. Thank you so much, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Margaret ma'am. And when you talked about not restricted and not limited, I could always correlate to the simple concept that Gandhi gave us, that Purna Swaraj, complete independence and absolutely no restrictions. But bringing that to the classroom is kind of a revolutionary idea that would be typical for educators to manage. But I think that is something that has to be thought on when we talk of liberal education. When you want to liberalize the market, when we wanted to globalize the market, we have to open things up. So that's what we have to do right now. But how will we be doing it is something that's interesting, because NEP marks it out that try to give them that flexibility, that independence, that freedom to think and make choices, but implementing this is the real challenge. So thank you so much to all the speakers for the first section where they put out their ideas in the limited time. The next 3 to 4 minutes is an open floor. If you got muted, if there's something important that you still want to add to the discussion, if there's something that got missed out, this in the next 3 to 4 minutes, it's an open floor. You can unmute yourself, add it at this moment. And most importantly, only try taking care of each other. It's the next 3 minutes is a non-moderated open floor for all of you. If you want to add something, you can unmute yourself and add that portion to the discussion on liberal education.
Yeah, hi. See, the concept of liberal education, as Ms. Sandhya has pointed out, is pretty clear. Liberal arts education and liberal education are two different components. That is well known. It is like, in Kannada, there is a say, it means that where you can't even drink a glass of water, a throat that doesn't allow a glass of water to go inside, we are talking about a samosa to be shown in. Okay. So liberal arts itself is not, we have not reached a stage where we are receptive towards the liberal arts. The liberal education, the concept of liberal education is still quite far away. I think that is, however, NEP is the very idea of NEP, when it gets acceptance from all states, because education is a state as well as a central subject. So when it is implemented across entire country, I'm sure it is going to bring in some element of liberalization of education. I'm not calling it liberal education. I'm not calling it liberal arts education. I think we are in the right direction. Yes, we will reach someday over there. And as I said, there are already some schools, some students, some teachers may be practicing it in their own way.
Absolutely. Because when we talk of India, in India, the education is a subject in the concurrent list. So states also have a say in it. So when the NEP gets implemented, what way and in which way it will be implemented is something very interesting that we'll be seeing in the future. And I think you gave a very nice quote: when drinking water is difficult, how do we want to force in a samosa in that single throat? This is something that's very important when we talk of liberalization of education. So if anybody wants to add something else, you can unmute yourself. It's again an open floor for the current next 1 to 2 minutes. Otherwise, we'll be moving towards the conclusion of the discussion today. I think most of the speakers have already spoken what they wanted to add to the complete topic. Before we end, the closing thoughts from Dr. Siddharth S. Siddharthji, over to you for your closing thoughts for the next 60 seconds.
Hello. Thank you, Daksh. And I don't have much to add, but I think the point that Ms. Sandhya made about differentiating between liberal education, which is a much larger paradigm and view about education across schools and call universities, versus a liberal arts, which is a university undergraduate program, is a good difference to make. Though I think the liberal arts program itself, in some sense, follows in the spirit of the liberal education. And I think, as most speakers pointed out, its implementation in India has to be, of liberal education or liberal arts education requires a lot of customization for our specific needs. And it's not something that can be borrowed totally from American or European universities. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you. Mr. Bob.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. So we had some amazing thoughts on liberal education, liberal arts education, and most importantly, liberalization of education. या कहीं ना कहीं गांधी जी का पूर्ण स्वराज. So are we talking of complete independence in the classroom, and that independence from whom? The parents' perception, the teachers' daunting content, or the principal's administration, or the students' his own set of mentality or his own mindset? What are we talking of when we talk of Swaraj, when we talk of independence, or when we talk of liberalization of education? Blubb World worked on a very simple idea where we worked on this, simply this, trying to find more freedom for children. So I'll be sharing a small little story with all of you, which is one of the teens that we discovered in our search for the most amazing teenagers from across the world. This is a story of a girl who had the passion of making candy, and that passion came to her from her mother. And now she's still a teenager, is a millionaire, and her candy is available across the biggest retail chain in the world, and that is Walmart's across the US. And she was on the cover page of Blubb World just some months back, and we call her the Candy Trainer, or Elena Moss. Every month, Blubb World does a very simple thing. We try to find teens who are doing amazingly well and share their stories with many more teens globally. Around a year back, we started working on an aspiration of building the world's biggest and the world's first Parliament of Teenagers. We are in the process of this. Nearly 20,000 students have already applied to become a member of Parliament of the World Teen Parliament. We are thankful to our partners, UNESCO New Delhi Office, UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute, and the United Nations Kindness Matters Initiative, and our amazing supporters for helping us build the world's biggest Parliament of Teenagers. And most importantly, the only thing that we ask these students to contribute to the World Teen Parliament is their intelligence, their problem solving. So thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of the Blubb World Web Talks 155th episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, and if you are not in the future sessions, you can open your audio, say a big yes, and thank you so much, and have an amazing evening ahead. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daksh. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And you are all doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so
Please
much.
keep doing. We are all there to support as much as we can. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, to join us.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
have
Thank you,
a very good
everybody.
evening. Thanks. Bye. Bye.
And one word,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Daksh, actually, I would like to share here that our children were very happy that World Teen Parliament session was wonderful. So I'm just making it open in front of everybody. So children are benefiting, and for future generation, you do a lot. Hats off to you. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, everybody. We're very happy to share with you that we have reached a registration of nearly 25,000 plus students on the World Teen Parliament, and we hope we'll be reaching 100,000 students by the end of this year. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting the complete initiative. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have an amazing
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you. Thank you.